Hey everyone, Blade here. So I noticed that a lot of people after the Nintendo Direct were very skeptical about Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I think it's mainly because of these two words being thrown around: high school. You know, it's not the Fire Emblem we know, it's more a high school based Fire Emblem. While I agree that it's probably not the Fire Emblem we know, I don't think it's too far from what we used to know. And I want to assure you all that because for me, I'm excited about this game and I'd like for you all to be too. And I think if you really look at some things, they won't be as big of a problem as people think. Of course, I could be wrong, but let me explain to you why I think the way I think, and you all can let me know what you think down in the comments below. So, let's get started with the first thing that's associated with high school, their age group. Basically, it seems like there's just a bunch of kids and, they're taking on the world. Alright? Well, first off, let's go back to not Awakening, not Fates, but Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance. And yes, I have played the game. Alright? So you're not talking to someone who's, just played Awakening or Fates or Echoes, which I've also played. But anyways. Actually, Echoes is a good point. But anyways, going back to Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance. Who is in Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance? Lyn, who, at least going by the poll that Fire Emblem Heroes did, is the most popular Fire Emblem character, even rising above Lucina, Roy, and Ike, Smash characters. That's quite a feat. And yet, this very popular and widely known and loved character of the Fire Emblem franchise, in the Japanese version, the original version, is supposed to be 15 when the story starts, and 16 throughout the latter half of the game. Lyn was a teenager. A young one at that. But yet, many people seem to love her. Now, yes, the localization version changed her age to 18 to 19, but realistically, that didn't do anything for the story, which is the entire thing I'm talking about. They did change her model to make her look a bit older, but the story is still the same. What I'm meaning is that if Lyn, a 15 and 16-year-old girl, or at least that's how she was written, can still have the maturity level where people would find her the most loved in the series, then clearly if you're looking at high schoolers in this game, they're still going to be very loved characters that many like themselves. Especially since, unlike Lyn, who was raised in the plains, in the wilderness, with no formal training, these are all nobles. In fact, not just nobles, we literally have the successors to their three nations all in one area. They're no slouches. If the current rulers have anything that happens to them, which going by the positioning of the school and the three kingdoms, I feel like there will be, but I'll get to that. If anything happens to the previous or the current rulers, they're in charge, just like many other previous Fire Emblem protagonists in the past, where they have to take up arms and then they lead. So from that standpoint, from the age difference, I actually feel like they might be a bit older than Lyn because it's not a high school. They specifically use the words Officers Academy. And to me, that seems to imply like some college level stuff because after they finish their curriculum, they're going to be not just basic soldiers, they're going to be commanders of their own platoons, of their own squads. And as you can see that in the Direct, in the previous trailer that we had, seems like telling your soldiers how to form up and attack is a big part of this game. And it makes sense, for if you're thinking about, how are you going to grind, your skill level of commanding soldiers? It makes sense for them to be nobles in school, just so that aspect of the game makes sense alone. I'm not sure if it'll work in many of the other games. For example, if we use Echoes, like Alm and his group. While Alm had battle experience, yes, the others were literally just villagers that were joining him. Didn't make sense for them to be commanders of the army. But for nobles who are learning to become rulers in their own right, it makes sense. And obviously, when we start off, you guys know this, we always start with bandits. So the fact that it was assignments for them to take out bandits or handle disputes within their country, that seems like very early game stuff. And that's a second thing I wanted to point out too. I feel like this Direct was targeted more towards people who were skeptical about buying the Fire Emblem series than Fire Emblem fans themselves. Because that's where you really make the most money, the core Fire Emblem fans should already be, they should already account for our purchase because we like Fire Emblem. It's mainly targeted at other people, and what have other people liked in the past? Awakening saved the series, what people always say, due to the supports and, the child system and all that kind of stuff, and how you could, pair people up. Fates added on to that. And now it seems like Three Houses really wanted to advertise that and say, hey, this is a really cool feature that we have, while also showing us the strategic side of that as well. But you guys know from the first trailer, it seemed like a very dark and gritty story. The only reason I think we're not getting way more details about the story is because it's not as simple as Fates, and I think that's what many people who are skeptical about, who didn't like Fates, want, right? You want a more detailed story. With Fates in its advertising, it was easy to advertise because Fate's story was literally the whole, appeal to it. You have an army that raised you and loves you, fighting an army that is your birth family and also loves you, and you have to pick a side between two of them. And that's Fates in a nutshell, and that's pretty much a part of the story. We don't really dive too deep into the kingdoms of Nor or Hoshido. So there you go. But it seems like this story is way more intricate. We already have backgrounds about the three nations, and that's probably going to have a part to play into how they act, how they conduct themselves, and what conflicts they might face when you have to choose one of them. Which let me go back to that. If you're worried about the story, take a look at this. The school is smack dab in the middle of the three countries, and you have to pick one of the armies to choose, right? For me, that seems perfect setup for their three nations are going to be in chaos, which, from the simple fact that it was emphasized in the direct, they're currently at peace. And it seems like you're going to choose one as they're, taking care of little stuff in their nation. They find out some bigger things are happening, and now, something may have happened to the current rulers, and now they're in charge, and they have to begin the journey to take back their land using the skills they learned from you because, they haven't finished their training completely. But once they take back their land, they'll be fully fledged rulers ready to lead. It seems very basic to, if we just compare it to Echoes, he started from basics, the leader of deliverance, but at the end of the journey, he was now emperor, and does not look that old. Celica does not look that old, They really did look like they could easily be just high schoolers who were going through trials and tribulations, but they were worse off because they were literally just born on a farm, except for who had, did have formal training. But yeah, realistically, in every sense of the way, the characters in Three Houses should be well more equipped than any of the armies not any of the armies, but than many of the armies we've seen so far, because they were, just a ragtag team who were literally just gathering strangers like, hey, you're powerful. You got anything to do? Nah, I'm good. Can I join your army? Yeah, sure. Come join us. And, that's how they're recruited. And instead, these are all nobles with powerful positions in their own nation, and they're going to school together and, creating friendships, just like Eliwood and Hector, which was another thing I wanted to mention. The school setting, or the academy setting, isn't something that's not far from Fire Emblem's setting. It fits right with the time period. Nobles going to school, that's what they do. They get special training to do what they do, to do what nobles need to do. As Eliwood and Hector became friends and established a very close relationship thanks to that, which played a part into how Eliwood and Hector and Lynn were able to take care of things. Because if Eliwood and Hector weren't friends, that game might have turned out a lot differently. So I just covered the school setting. As far as the students, they might actually be older than some of the Fire Emblem characters we've known. As far as the high schools or the school setting itself, it makes sense with Fire Emblem. We've seen that kind of thing, or it's been in the backstory of characters we've known before, and they should actually be very much well equipped to handle whatever situations they're going on, because instead of just having to fight bandits, being thrown into the thick of it and surviving, they're actually having tutelage by an actual teacher, by us. It's the same way of, how Robin was done, or how Mark was done in, Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance. We've seen this kind of thing done before, only it's now just a teacher, and now instead of just an army that we just get, they're now a school, which will explain how they get experience, get access to different classes. I just feel like it's just Fire Emblem but wrapped differently. Alright? I think that's how I want to end this. It's literally just Fire Emblem, but wrapped differently. And if you could handle some other games in the series, this should be no different. I didn't see anything that's, especially since they're nobles, they should be more mature than some of the other characters who, weren't nobles. Although you could argue that that's actually what you want, because Ike is also really loved and Ike didn't have any formal training. So, but anyways, I just hope this video made you feel a little bit better about Fire Emblem Three Houses, because honestly, I'm incredibly excited about the game. You may not have seen it too much in my reaction to the direct because I was trying to keep my voice down. And then after I cut me watching the rest of the direct, and I kind of got a little demotivated. I was like, okay, there's nothing else about the game, fine. But yeah, I'm incredibly excited. I'm eager to see what the three nations are going to have, if they have different gameplay mechanics. And there's so many other things as well that I didn't even dive into. This wasn't an analysis, just me trying to cheer people up about the game. So please post your thoughts down in the comments below if you have any. Because I'm not really directing this at my subscribers, but more people outside in the Fire Emblem community. But please post your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.